Hello, and welcome to Tuesday Talks with Mom. I'm Tara Myers, and I am so glad you're here. As part of Moms on a Mission, we're empowering moms across the country to stand up and advocate for their children's educational freedom. As a mom of an adult son with Down syndrome, I've walked this road, navigating the school system and fighting for the right to choose the best education for my child. And now I'm here to share that journey with you. Every 2 weeks, we'll sit down with different moms from around the country and provide thoughtful advice and share our experiences. Together, we're building a community of moms who are finding their voices, taking action, and making a difference. Welcome to Tuesday Talks with Mom. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for tonight's episode. Becky and I are both joined by Jackie Maes, the co-founder of Discovery Schools in Springfield, Missouri. And she was also a high school science teacher, but her most cherished role is that of mother. And she has been a mom on a mission for many years, and she's fought for school choice options for her children and for other students too. So Jackie, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. And I've read a little bit about your story, Tara, and I know Becky's, and I'm just inspired that you asked me. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out. And I appreciate Becky, who happened to have toured your school and shared so many delightful things about it. So I'm going to let Becky go ahead and get started with our conversation tonight because she knows where you're at and what you're doing. So go ahead, Becky.
I'm in the know.
I know.
Yes. So, Jackie, thank you so much for joining us on this Mom Talk. I have known you for several years, and I'm just your connection with the Discovery School. It's just, especially after touring it and seeing all of the opportunities you offer. Can you just tell us a little bit about the Discovery School for people that aren't from Southwest Missouri and don't, or maybe they are from Southwest Missouri and just don't know?
Yeah. So do you want to hear like our origin story, or do you want to hear kind of what we do first?
Let's hear origin story first.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, like many educators across the country, COVID was transformational to our operations. And in 2020, when it looked like the schools were going to shut down, we called our friends at the Springfield Greene County Health Department. So the Discovery Center, for those who don't know, is a children's science center in downtown Springfield, Missouri. So if you think about like a children's museum or a science center in your city, it's kind of a blend of that. But we're a 60,000 square foot building in the middle of downtown. So full of awesome science exhibits that teach kids science every day. And we called our local health department and we said, we want to be the first to shut down. We want to lead the way. And we said, what's keeping you up at night? Like, how can we help? And they said what's keeping them up at night is what they were going to do with the kids if the schools closed, because they didn't know how the doctors and nurses were going to get to the hospital to battle COVID if they didn't have school to send their kids. So we worked with our local hospitals and the health department, and in 5 days, we decommissioned the science center and became a fully licensed childcare center and provided free healthcare for healthcare workers we provided free childcare for healthcare workers and first responders during COVID. And that was in March of 2020. And we served over 20,000 hours of free childcare, provided over 50,000 free meals and snacks to these kids. And we followed the CDC guidelines of the stable groups of 10. No kids within other groups ever commingled with the 10 in that classroom's pod. And so it enabled me to try this idea on that I've had for over 15 years about what would happen if we taught kids what they were ready to learn instead of what grade they're in. And what we found is that when we had sixth graders that were on third grade math, when you teach the child the third grade math that they were missing, they no longer felt stupid. They felt confident in math, and we got them on grade level wicked fast. Like, it was crazy. And so it gave us this like amazing opportunity to sort of experiment this idea in a way that was safe because nobody else was open. It was a real big risk for the Discovery Center to take because public schools are our biggest client for field trips. And we want the public schools in our community to be successful. So to start a private school in the middle of any other time would have been like a death sentence for the Discovery Center. And when it looked like the schools were not going to reopen in August, that's when our executive director at the time came to me and said, Jackie, I think it's time to do your school. And I had begged him to let me do this, and nobody would let me do my idea because it's crazy. How crazy would it be to teach kids what they're ready to learn?
Right.
Nobody would let me do it. And so he gave me the green light, and we thought we would just start with 2 classes of 20 kids. And if we could just serve those 20 kids' needs of individualizing the education, developing their talent, focusing on areas that they had challenges in, but letting them go as fast as they want in the areas where they're strong, we would just see what happened. And within 48 hours, we filled those first 20 spots. And we had board members leaving our board meeting to enroll their children before the press release went out. And that first year, we ended the year with 6 classrooms of 10 students. And in the fall of 2021, we were the inaugural YAS Prize winner in education. And so that gave us a huge influx of resources that helped us kind of stabilize until we could get Missouri Scholars rolling. And I'm really proud of the work that my team has done to show that education freedom does work, and to show the test scores and to have the data and to tell the stories so that we can move the needle. And I've been really proud to watch Missouri Scholars grow over the last 5 years. And I, might be a little piece of that cog somewhere, but a lot of people have been working hard to get that passed here. And we want to see that on a national scale of kids being able to go to the school that best serves their needs. And so that's a little bit about how we started.
And I love that. Say, I never heard this before. Wow. Oh my gosh. And it lines up perfectly with what happens when you have the ability to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't always have to be the same way. Oh my goodness, Jackie, that's an amazing story.
It is. I have heard it more than once, and I still get goosebumps because with COVID, I mean, so many negative things with COVID, but the fact, Jackie, that you got to try your dream during this time, it's just incredible.
It's really fun when your dream helps other people's dream come true. Yes. And we have helped so many families get their life back. They don't have homework every night. We don't do homework at our school. If I can't get it done between 8 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., what are we doing? Right. So I've had the, bumps on my head from trying all the different ways. We've tried public school, we've tried private school, we've tried homeschool over the last 15 years. And so I just took all of that learning that I had with my own children, and I thought, what is best for all kids is to treat them like a human being and to treat them like an individual, and it works. Shocker. But it's been really fun. It's been really fun to see, and thanks to the generous donations of philanthropists that believe in education freedom, we now have the capacity to serve 140 students on 2 campuses. And we are just getting started. We are in the infancy of our development. And once school choice passes, we will be able to provide services for whoever wants and needs them. So we want to help. It's really not a popular thing to advocate for in our community. I think there's a lot of myths about school choice that make me really sad, because I want all kids to get an amazing education. My family, we have moved twice into different houses to try to get our kids in a better school district. And I just think that's ridiculous in America, that you have to uproot your life and uproot your family and leave your neighbors and just to try to get your kids a shot at a better education. And it's still not working.
Right.
I really did not know until we started serving these hundreds of kids during COVID how bad the grade level attainment really is in our country. It should really scare us that only 26% of American students are on grade level in math. Why aren't we freaking out about that? That's a 5-alarm fire.
That it is. It is. Somebody needs to rescue. And
yeah, and why is private school only available to the rich kids? That's not cool. But why are only 29% of America's children proficient in reading, you guys? I talked to a high school history teacher this week whose goal is he's being asked by the district to have his kids write an essay, and he's working on just 2 sentences, and they can't do it. Yep. And we are really in trouble if we do not get a handle on this in our country. And so we just want to show that what we're doing is working and we can help. So whoever out there needs a nugget of hope or help, I want to be a resource to anyone who needs help.
That is fantastic. Can you kind of go through your own journey as a mom advocating for school choice?
Yeah, because if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have known any of this or what to do. But like the thousands of moms across America that are part of this education revolution that we're experiencing, we didn't know that the traditional model wouldn't work for our kids. We just assumed that things were like when we were young, and we signed them up and put them in. And my daughter, she's 22 now, my oldest daughter, and we've blended a family now. So now I brought 4 kids into the marriage, and my husband brought 4 kids in. So now we have children ranging age 13 to 29, and there's 8 of them. And I think it's fair to say there's a lot of neurodivergence in our family. We have a lot of high IQ. We have a lot of ADHD. We have some spectrum. We didn't know it at the time, but when we enrolled Ellie in kindergarten, she was not diagnosed until 4th grade with an auditory processing disorder that makes it hard for her brain to decode simple parts of speech. And so because she had such a high IQ, she was able to compensate, but her deficits were significant, and we didn't know. And so she cried every single day of kindergarten from August till October. Not about how she was being treated, but how the other kids were treating each other. And I think it was just, she would come home and it was safe, and she would just need to get it out because it was traumatic for her. And at that first parent-teacher conference in October, when I finally got an opportunity to visit with the teacher about, we have a situation, that's when I realized that she already knew the 4th quarter goals before the first day of school. And there was no discussion about what were we going to do to differentiate the learning for her high ability. And my 4-year-old at the time was freaking us out with his high IQ. And so I actually went back to school and got a master's degree in gifted education so that I could advocate for my kids. And I received services as a gifted individual for to get intervention for my, I think it's special needs. I think gifted kids have special needs. And so I hooked up with a mentor who started the gifted program in our community, and she was my mentor through my master's program. I know that not everybody out there can go back to school and just get a master's degree to help your kids, but I didn't know what else to do.
Well, and that's what you do as a mom. Like, what can I do to help my kids?
Yes. And I would have done anything to help. And that was the one thing I could grab onto. And so what I learned in my master's program is that acceleration can be one of the most effective intervention strategies for gifted learners. And I advocated fiercely for my son to start kindergarten early, and no one would let me. Ross spoke on the floor of the Missouri House at age 4 to try to advocate for himself to be able to start kindergarten. He was ready, but nobody would let him. And so we actually, at that time, I did unenroll my kids from public school, and I started teaching high school science at an independent school that was a hybrid model that blended homeschool with a seated option 2.5 days a week. And that worked really well for our family until my youngest was diagnosed with cancer in 2014. And so we went to St. Jude, the best place in the world if your kid has cancer, and we have a happy ending. Oh. And they saved his life. It was really difficult to find a substitute teacher that could teach physics. No subs can teach physics. It just doesn't exist. And so I was very concerned for my students that it wasn't the best thing for me to stay in the classroom. And so that's when I joined the Discovery Center team, and I was hired there to help them revamp their science education programs. But I had to put my kids back to public school so that I could work full time. And that was the best thing for my family at the time. And my children have benefited greatly from the choice program offerings that we have in our community, from the sports. With 140 kids, I'm probably never going to be able to field a football team. So there's pros and cons, and they needed that public school experience. So they have benefited along the way from all kinds of different education models. And I'm not here to discredit anyone's system, but I do think that any person that tells you that one system works for all kids, that's not real.
Right.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think Becky would echo this. It's never been an us against them. It's always been a both and system for us, and a decision. And there's a way to make sure that, every model for every child, let the parents choose. Because the parents know better than anyone else. And look at your story. I mean, wow.
I am learning that our traditional antiquated education models are leaving most learners behind. I am learning that from the stories I'm hearing from the students we're serving. So the fixed pacing, the overcrowded classroom, standardizing the lessons, they literally taught us in school when I was getting my master's degree in education, they literally taught us bowl to the middle. You'll hit most of the kids. Some on this side are never going to get it, and these guys already have it. So if you just bowl to the middle, that's ridiculous. And if you look at the grade level attainment across just the 10 students, we set our class size at 10 because it's impossible to individualize for more than that. It's really hard to do it for 10. It's what our teachers do every day is the hardest job, and they still keep coming because they know in their heart they're getting to teach. And they know in their heart this is the right thing for the kids, but it's really hard. And so for the 10 students in each class, we might have a grade range band of kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade in one classroom of 10 children. And so this whole acting like the only way to do it is to teach every child the same thing. It's like so many moms like us have woken up that it doesn't have to be like that anymore. Maybe it used to, but it is 2025, guys. We have AI. We have the internet now. I mean, I am really excited about a project I'm working on right now that it'll use a closed large language model to replicate the Discovery School model that will be available to anyone that needs help individualizing, because the heartbreaking texts that I get from my friends that are in public education that say, how do I do this for 27 kindergartners, that are starving, and throwing tears at each other? How do I do this? And so I do think that we can solve the mental health crisis and some behavior issues that we're seeing if the curriculum academically is appropriate to the needs of the child, because it is hurting our children when they go into a classroom and they don't know what's being taught, or they already know what's being taught and they're asked to sit there for how long during a day. And it's hurting our country.
Absolutely.
So we have got to start working on developing the talent of our students. America's the best country to live in if you're talented, but it is not the best country right now to live in if you want your talent developed. So we need to fix that. We need to become the country where it is the best country to live in if you want your talent developed.
Love that.
Absolutely. Yes. I love
So
it.
we try to find the intersection where the kids' natural strengths and their talents kind of meet and what they're passionate about and interested in. And when you can find the intersection of that, they can learn anything.
I'm a strong believer of that. I mean, even with my son, with on the low end of the academic spectrum, if we were able to teach him where his interests were and where his deficiencies were, and build on his strengths, it was amazing the things he was able to learn. And they kept saying, well, he's never going to read. And I said, who says never? Whoever says never for an individual? We can always teach something. And I'll never forget when a senator walked by and looked at his speech that he had written, and he's like, wait a minute, did you write that? And he said, yes, I did.
Yes, I love it.
That is the neatest handwriting I have ever seen. And in my head, I thought, you don't know how many years and how much practice that took, but thank you so much for noticing, because he was told it would never happen. And that's not true. We had to find where his strengths were and build on them, and then fill in the spaces between. And he was striving for it. All behaviors are gone. So I think every student, and the other thing about the gifted students that can just sit there, no, they need to be fostered even more so. I mean, their abilities need to be cultivated and stretched, and they're going to be a different kind of our future. I mean, we have so much to give our children nationwide if we can just solve this problem, which, hello, the moms are solving the problem.
We are. Good job, guys.
Well, good job, you too. This is exciting. Go ahead, Becky.
Oh, I was just going to ask Jackie, moms want to solve problems for their kids. So what kind of words of wisdom would you give to moms that are like, I know that my kid is not getting the education that he or she deserves, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. What advice would you give as a mom, but also as someone who has co-founded a school? I mean, that's huge. And I know that is not in my wheelhouse. I mean, I can do some things, but co-founding a school, that's way outside of my realm of reality.
You don't want to say that in front of me, Becky.
I was going to say, Becky, be careful.
I will tell you a story. When I first brought this idea to my boss, he was like, well, what are the requirements in our state for opening a school? And I said, do not look at them. They will make you so mad, because there are none. I think we make it too hard sometimes. And I will just share with you that I have made some really hard financial choices, and made a tremendous personal sacrifice financially to be able to do what I need to do for my kids. And that's not fair. There are moms that can't do that. There are moms that have children in our school that work 3 jobs, one at McDonald's, just to scrape together the resources. And that's when we're giving them mostly the tuition on scholarship. It's all worked out for me, thankfully, but it's really scary when you have to make a choice between, do I keep my job or do I throw caution to the wind? And I just always believe, I can't remember, I'm escaping her name's escaping me right now, but I heard a really wise woman one time just say that you can always have a redo on everything in your life except your kids.
Yep.
If you mess that up, you can't get that back. And I've made a lot of mistakes with my kids in other areas, but for this piece, what I wanted for them is something I didn't have. And what we know about gifted learners is, for those children that don't have to try hard to learn something prior to 1st grade, they're never going to take an academic risk in high school or college. So, because if they grow up thinking that I already know this stuff that they're teaching me, so if I don't know it, I must not be smart.
Right.
And so they sit in classes for years, not being challenged, not having to try. So the first time the learning is complicated, they completely shut down.
Yep.
And so I just wanted for my kids that they would have to try hard. And whatever they face in life, and I'm already seeing them, it's so fun to watch your adult children succeed. And they are thriving. When I say they're thriving, it is so fun to watch. But they can solve any problem. They can walk into any board room. They can go ask a donor for a check. They've watched me do it, and they know how to do hard things. So whatever you have to do to fight for your kids, you shouldn't have to fight. That's the thing. We should make this easier to allow, families to feel confident in the education their kids are getting. So the first thing I would say is, we want to fight so that it doesn't have to be a fight for you.
Right.
But if you have to fight like we did, then we're going to be here to support you. And there's thousands of us across the country. Another network that I'm involved in that's been really, really supportive is the Vela Network. And they support school founders all across the country. A lot of micro schools and homeschool families are part of that network. And so if you don't know about them, I would highly recommend. They have resources available to people who want to start a school. But just reach out and call me. You guys can find me on LinkedIn. I've promoted some directors on my team so that I have more free time to help with this, because this is my passion. I believe when you let kids do what they are passionate about, they can do anything.
Amazing.
Well, Jackie,
thank you so much for sharing your story. I definitely want to continue this conversation with you at another time, because you have so much to offer. And the fact that you're a mom and you're a passionate one, and you have done all these amazing things. I mean, it's just so inspirational.
I echo that, Jackie. Thank you so much. And, it takes moms coming together and sharing resources and ideas. And like you said, sacrificing and being willing to step out to make a difference, not only for our own children, but for other people's children as well. So thank you for the efforts that you've done, for what you continue to do, and for what you're doing for Missouri. And I look forward to talking with you again and hearing how things go. So thank you. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you guys too.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.